Hey guys, this is Ras and Ashley, and this is She Wolf Alchemy. Today we're talking about being black and black spaces.
Yeah, something that can be comforting at times, and then in other times, I think it can be kind of uncomfortable when we're held to certain expectations or norms that like only yes, even when you're around your own people, I guess.
There's a
Um,
different type of like nervousness and and worry that can come.
yeah, no, I've seen people like talking about this in other ways, just like on social media and things like that, of like joking about like little things like how your hair can be looking one way and then it's like, oh, another like my job hired another black person to work here and now I can't come here with my hair looking crazy anymore because
Look, yeah.
she's gonna notice that it doesn't look the way it's supposed to look. Whereas then everybody else had no idea.
It's reminding me of like, you know how there's that saying, there was memes about it for a long time all over the internet. I feel like I've been seeing memes about this since I was like 22. But like you can tell when a black woman dates white men by her hair. And it's like, cause you just plop the wig on. You ain't there's no bleach knots. There's no attempt for it to look realistic,
Mm-mm.
lifelike. It just looks like a
Mm-mm.
helmet.
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
and that's what it makes me
Mhm.
think of. Cause yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now I did see some people having this conversation and they were talking about how like, but sometimes, and this is not often. I don't think, I'm not gonna say it's not often. It's not all the time, but they were saying there are times like where it's like, yes, she is that person who dates white men because that's predominantly what's around her, but also there's not a lot of hairstylists in her area either. So maybe,
I
but then
mean,
again, we've
I'm
seen it in
not
other spaces where we
I'm
know
I'm not clocking the reason for it. I'm
we
not
just know that it
clocking the
happens.
reason for it. I'm just aware
The
that,
thing
yeah.
is that the evidence is unrefuted. I mean, it goes the same for men of, with the I don't know about this episode.
I too was very nervous because I was like, "Oh, all we got. Do we want to make enemies?"
Right. No, no, no. I was just gonna say it makes me think because we've said the same thing about men with like how they get their hair cut or how they're, how they allow certain things. And I have seen examples of this. And I say this like, well, I ain't even gonna say it. No, I remember I was like scrolling through one of the dating apps
Mhm,
and there was a guy, I was like, no, right? Just no. Just looking at
mhm.
him was a no. And I showed it to one of my other coworkers who's a black woman, and she was like, nah. And then I showed it to my other coworker who's a white woman, and she was like, what's wrong? What do you mean? He's handsome. And I was like, okay, are you attracted to men outside of your race? And she was like, yeah. I was like, have you ever dated a black man before? She was like, yeah. And she was like, why are you asking? And I was like, because I don't understand why you can't tell what
It's
is
a
wrong with his
thing.
hairline.
It's a thing. It is a thing because I have ran into these men that only date, like, outside their race, and they're always just like, "Because sisters won't give me a chance," and I'm like, "I believe you. I believe you." Like, I'm not arguing with you. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely have met those where I'm like, "No, that's a personal preference, and that's between you, your mama, and whatever the South did to you. Whatever whatever whatever
Mhm.
social things and self-esteem things you got going on. That's between y'all. I'm not arguing with you, sir. But I have definitely came across those who are like, no, because only people outside my race are attracted to me. Like I've tried, and I know we have that argument of like, yeah, because you wanted a basketball wife type woman, and you was running around with Pokemon cards at 21, yelling
Mhm.
Pikachu, and they don't really date your type. But there was a little black girl who also had a cape that was very
Mhm.
much interested in you, and you don't want her.
Mhm.
You wanted
Mhm.
a 10 and you was clearly a 4. There definitely are those situations, but I will
Mhm.
say I have definitely came across those who are like, "Other women of black women did not want me," and I'm like, "Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I'm not arguing with you."
Well, because and to our point of kind of what we're going into though, there is like these like certain expectations right? And, like, you can't get around it, and so when you see that type like you're describing, it's like, I would be saying something like, "I wasn't aware that you were trying to make yourself attractive to Black women." Because if you are, I mean, because I and I always
You're
say,
right. We shouldn't do this episode. I
no,
can feel the tension in every word you're saying, and I also am sitting here like, don't say it that way because you don't got time to fully explain the thought, and you don't want the internet to take it and run with it.
I think we had a we it it's a good
Yeah, we're gonna
conversation.
push through. I just, it's the tension. There's definitely
It is.
tension
I
talking
mean,
about this.
cause it's not stuff you ain't supposed to talk about it. We're not
It's
supposed to talk
not. Okay, so going back to the to the things we can't talk about. But yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's a thing in the community. It is a thing in the community. I think we often don't talk about it because it can get real tricky.
Mhm.
Go real. Like, I don't want this to become a what do you bring to the table conversation. Like, I'm gonna just say this and go. I would like the internet to not pick up on this and make this a discussion. I would like no one to bring up my Twitter profile from 2008 and be like, yeah, you saying this now. But when you was 16, like, I don't know. I don't know what I was saying when I was 16. But it is a thing. There is definitely there's certain things that are, I think, norms in our community that when you're away from your community, or if you didn't grow up in your community with people that look like you, that when you come back home, it's like, oh, there's rules here. I gotta
Mhm.
I gotta change. I gotta get back accustomed to these rules. And when you were outside of that, you'd be like, "Oh, look at me! I'm a plop on this wig, and don't nobody care. Don't nobody
I
know
mean,
this is plastic."
and to be fair, there's rules of engagement when you are not around people that look like
Of
you. You know,
course.
when you're in predominant spaces where you really truly are the one and only, or you're the minority by a long shot. Like there's rules of engagement for that, and then there's rules of engagement when you come back to be around people. So then there's also people who have this dynamic. Like I know, so my mom has talked to me about this. Like she was raised in upstate New York, which is
Mhm,
white.
mhm,
Period. Okay.
mhm,
Only other Black folks was like her siblings, like maybe another family or two here or there. But it was really just them. And so for her, joining the military was a culture shock.
mhm.
Was like, oh, whoa, there's all this stuff I don't know about. There's all these things. And for her, it did create a lot of social awkwardness and anxiety
Mhm.
around these folks because she grew up in the country. That's already a big shift, you know, to grow
Yeah.
up in the country to we're shipping you off to Germany. But also being around all these people of color, it's like, oh, that's even with my mom with her ex-husband, like there are people who assumed that he was white. And I was like, where did y'all get that from? And they're like, well, isn't your dad? I'm like, my dad's the only white man my mom has ever been with.
Mhm.
Because once she got into the army and was like, oh, oh, I didn't.
There was other options.
There's a whole other, there's some other stuff I like. Like she did that, you know? And there's also even something to be said about how you interact with people, how you're viewed, you know, when you are that only person of color
Mhm.
in predominantly white spaces, how you're viewed in that setting, whether people are like my sister right now is going to a predominantly white school, and that's a whole other thing. She wants to date, she wants to do certain things, and she doesn't always get the attention
Yeah.
as some of the other girls. And I mean, of course, anyone would tell a young girl, "There's nothing wrong with you. You're beautiful."
Mm.
But she is beautiful. Like she really
She
like, and so
is.
we try to let her know, like, this is just a very small percentage of the population, and you have not met all the people you're gonna meet. You haven't been all the places you're gonna be. And when you go into other places, people will recognize you differently. They will see
Mhm.
you different. And it is a real thing that happens. But in the meantime, what does that do to a young person's self-esteem?
A whole bunch, a whole bunch. Like, I think there's not a big enough conversation for our Black kids that, whose parents, like, grew up a certain way, and it was like, "We're gonna get money. I'm putting my kids in private schools, in private neighborhoods, in private blah, 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 blah." And then there's not a lot of other kids that look like them in these private schools, in these private neighborhoods, these blah, blah, blah. And then they have this moment where Usually it's when they're a teen. They don't really notice it when they're a kid. Usually they're going into teenhood and they done brought their baby to the family function or something and realize, damn, she's struggling. Like they struggling to integrate with her. Oh crap, what did I do? Because I was so worried about you getting all these other opportunities that I forgot. I thought it was just you're black, so you would just naturally. And
Mhm.
now we sitting here struggling like, oh crap. Now I've put my baby in a position where they don't feel comfortable around their own.
Mhm.
And that's very real. Me and you talked about this before, because this was something like I had a battle with my parents. Um, and not so much that it happened when I was really, really young. My dad lived in Mexico when I was really young. I was like second grade, I think. And I went to go live with him for 2 years there. And then when I came back, luckily I was still young enough, but it was really hard for me to integrate back. And
Mhm.
I had luckily like 7 brothers living with me at that time. They weren't all my brothers, but that's how I call them. And they teased me into they teased me into a lot of stuff, like just getting back into the culture. But like it was a big shift for me. One,
Mhm.
to be uprooted from everything I know, go to Mexico and then be teased and all this type of stuff. I know every now and then, like I'll hear like an interview with Lupita. She's like, it was amazing. That to me. And I was like, girl, that was not my experience being a little black girl in Mexico. But, like, that was a whole thing for me, and then coming back to the US, like, that was a whole thing, and I remember, like, getting into it with my parents because they very much was like, "Oh, we wanna put you in a Jack and Jill club." Oh, they wanted to send me to Catholic private school, and, like, having to really fight that, like, y'all
Mhm.
already have me isolated in certain ways. Please don't isolate me anymore. And I
Mhm.
think it's something to be very mindful as we are now the adults having kids, our kids are going to school, our kids are doing this, to be mindful of like what that does to your children. Because kind of like you said with your sister, I definitely have been in spaces where I was one of few black women and struggling to feel beautiful because I'm being told that beauty is a size 2 and is blonde hair and blue. I can't tell you the first time I remember I was talking to this woman, and I was older, of course, so I knew more about it, but it still kind of like shocked me. And they were talking to me about their child, and they were just like, well, and they were like, and I just don't understand because she's so beautiful. I mean, she has blonde hair and blue eyes. And I remember just sitting there like, I don't know why you think that means she's beautiful. I like, but she kept
Yeah.
repeating this phrase. Like, I mean, she has blonde hair and blue eyes. I don't know why she's struggling to date. I don't know why, she's really thin. So like, I don't understand. And I was just like, that is, I, I keep forgetting this is a whole thing for y'all. This is really
Mm.
driving it home.
Mm.
But again, sometimes that harm that we do when we separate our kids or people that look like them and what it's like for them to have to try to integrate back with their own folks as freaking adults.
Mhm. 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 'Cause let's be fair, there's not always a lot of grace for
It
certain.
is not.
Right? Everyone expects that you were supposed to have learned certain things at a certain time in certain movies you were supposed to have watched. It's already I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, we can both comment on what that's like just being, like, a church kid that's not allowed to do certain things,
Yeah.
but at least within the Black community, there's its own sector for that as well, and finding those people
The
is nice.
jean skirt brigade is what I call them. The jean skirt brigade.
Somebody else was like, "Oh, you couldn't do that either? Ah, ha, ha, yay, like, my people." So that's
You
okay.
two were told Harry Potter was witchcraft? Yes.
Right.
Let's be friends.
Right. Yay. Like there's that and you can still have that within the community. So there's that. So but there's already that, right? But if you
Mm,
but yeah, there's all these lists of experiences that other people were having or were, things that were influencing the culture that you just were not present for or may not know about for whatever reason. And it is challenging to integrate back in because there isn't a lot of space where it's like, "What?" I mean, the amount of times I know I've had it with movies,
mhm,
and I say that because living overseas,
mhm.
being in hyper religious homes, all sorts, there's all these things, and there's like, "You never saw blah, 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 blah. It's the greatest movie of all time." And then you go watch it, and it's like, this movie did not hold up This is not a good
You
movie.
had to be there.
You had to have been there. You had to have
Like,
been there 20 years ago when everybody else was watching it.
were
Now there's
you
been better movies.
were you the person that had to get into it over camera? Who was it? It might have been you or some it was somebody that I was like, "I love this set. I love Cameron." And they're like, Cameron would just say Scooby Doo and go, and
I
Rudy Poo
mean,
and Shooby Doo, Ooby Doo. And I'm like, "You had to be there. It
I
don't
think you can have that
matter."
conversation with anybody because even though I was there, that's why I know. That's how you sound.
First of all, purple haze for life. But yes, there's definitely certain moments you had to be there. If you try to go back and catch up on, like you
You
missed
missed it.
it. You missed it.
Yeah.
There are certain songs, there's certain times in hip hop like I just was not present for. Like I just wasn't. Either I was hyper religious, my parents had me hyper religious. I told y'all at one point in time I had the Freak Elite lyrics in my backpack and I got grounded for the whole year for that. So
Mhm.
there's just like certain periods in time where like I just was not present for what was going on in the culture. And like you said,
Mhm.
trying to go back and revisit and try to understand, and you just be like, yeah, I'm just never gonna be into Paid in Full. I'm not. I'm just not. I'm just not. I'm not gonna go back and try to watch it. It's just I'm just not that there in a place in my life. And I like ratchet shit. I do. I'm not.
Mhm.
I've tried. I tried. Whenever
Mhm.
people try to be like, and oh, I want to be a Keisha. Like, who's Keisha? And they're like, Chris, sit down. I just need y'all to understand that. And then learn how to chicken noodle soup. And that's okay.
Mm, 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 mm.
But it's hard. It's hard to go back and reintegrate. But I think also sometimes it's also depending on where you were location wise,
Oh,
because
yeah.
kind of like you talk about with your mom, like being from New York, but being from upstate New York, being from Northern New York is a very different culture. Um, the same thing with like I'm from Ohio, y'all. I'm from the Midwest. Okay. Like I was walking Coogee purses in college and it was doing something. And then I remember coming to Atlanta and
Mhm.
being like, "What y'all mean y'all waking up and going to 8 a.m. classes in heels, Gucci,
Right.
and full face full of makeup? What?
Mhm.
What do you mean you got a 26-inch bust down and you work at Taco Bell? Like what? What are?"
Mhm.
And like that transition from coming from Ohio to Atlanta was like weird for me at first because there was just so many things that I was just like, wait, what do you mean everybody's doing this? Like I don't.
Not I mean, I felt that definitely, and it's funny because I thought it was just a Southern thing, but then I
Mhm,
realized that I was going from a predominantly white school in Oklahoma, and I moved to
mhm,
Georgia in high school to I don't even want to say predominantly a black school in Augusta, and it was like you got on a whole dress, like people was dressed to the nine to come to high school, and I got on pajama pants
mhm.
because don't nobody care. Ain't nobody here to see. People like, but somebody, what if somebody sees you like that? Like people have seen me like this before. I don't care. But this is the whole thing. Now, not to mention, now there are places where people but you know what? That's what
Ohio, Ohio.
right, okay, because
There are
that's
places.
what's interesting about the theory, because people be like, because there are those who want to shade black folks who will say, like, oh, they come out like this or they do like that. And I'm like, there may be those, but there's also this whole other where you got to be on your P's and Q's. So I don't even know how that got labeled as like a whole community thing, because we more so care about looking nice than anything.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's interesting. It's so funny because anytime you say I'm from the Midwest, I don't know what you're
What
about to
that
tell us
means.
that means. Yeah, like what does I'm like, well, what interesting fact is she gonna give us about the Midwest today? Because
Look, there's just, I don't know. Because for the longest time, I did not consider Ohio the Midwest. We are Eastern Standard Time. We're the East Coast. And they're like, you don't have a coast though. And I was like, I hear you. I felt like we lined up with the East Coast. But no, when I first moved to Atlanta, people told me all the time, like, you're not from here. Where are you from? Where? Um, but yeah, no, because the Midwest is a different, it's a different beast. We're comfy. Okay? We're comfortable. We're comfy folks, okay? We're very comfortable people. All right?
Mhm.
You're allowed to just have a pretty face and get by on life. Like, you also don't like, you just be cute. Like, you could just be cute and, like, somewhat do your job, and people are like, "Yeah, that's a hmm."
Oh my gosh. So in Augusta, they have a joke about like you might be a 10 in Augusta, but you're like a 6 in Atlanta. But
Yeah,
this
that's dumb.
this also goes for like I remember when people used to be like, "Oh my god, it's fine dudes in Atlanta. Ooh, in Atlanta they got all this and they got all that." I'm like, it's just a concentrated amount of black people. And so you have a higher statistical probability that you might find what you're attracted to. The city is not breeding any
I
specific people.
I have never heard a good thing about Atlanta men, so even you be like, "There's fine dudes in Atlanta." I'm like, "Oh, I never heard that. That was
I
never a
don't
thing." There's absolutely gorgeous women in Atlanta.
there are beautiful women in Atlanta.
There's so many beautiful women here.
There are plenty. But no, coming to Atlanta to me, even from Georgia, still being in the South, in Augusta to Atlanta was a shock because it was so black. And so having lived there for so many years, I'm really grateful for the experience. And I tell people, I'm like, I feel like we all need to have an experience where we don't feel like the minority.
Yeah, of course, of course. Like, yeah.
Because for all the other stuff, all the hype stuff and all that, like that is something that I know that hell, I miss it. I miss that. Yeah, there are times where I am very grateful to have grown up in certain it's just like being a military kid, moving all around. You don't have to conform to certain things for too long. Um, but even still, you could do stuff like get Fat Farm from Korea and fit in with everybody else. And Fubu and whatever the name brands were at the
Look.
time. but but yeah, but when I think about stuff with kids now, like I know when I worked in a school and it was an all black school and they try to do the let's all wear uniforms so everybody has on the same thing and then nobody has to feel any kind of way about what they got on. Please. Them kids stunt through their shoes. They
Mhm.
will clown you. I think you could get away with some Crocs if you got some real cool gibbets. But for the otherwise, you need to have these new J's and these were elementary school kids that are not purchasing nothing. This is a title or a Title One school. I don't know if that's a term.
Look,
Session.
I myself remember being a part of a gang of people that made fun of a guy who was actually my friend. He was all of our friend for getting Shaqs when Shaq had his
See,
shoes.
you can
And
have
I don't remember why we did it. I just remember it was
them
a thing to do.
Shaqs. Oh my gosh.
It was a thing to do. So
Because they were Shaqs.
because they were
Because they were
Shaqs.
Shaqs.
Because they were Shaqs, because they got some lugs instead of Timberlands.
Like I feel like this is why I'm glad I adopted the philosophy long ago because my mom wasn't buying on name brand stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like it was not gonna happen. But that I would rather have no brand than an off brand. Okay.
Because they was
I
gonna
don't
murder you in school.
they're gonna get you. You come up there with that polo assassin on, and it was polo association, and they be like, "Oh, you got on that polo assassin. That's fake. You ain't got the right Oh my goodness. No, because polo
And that went beyond race, by the way. That was not like just a black thing because the white people, they had their thing too.
hmm
They had their stuff like what was their brands? I can't even like you had to come through with your Aeropostale.
and they're Abercrombie and
Yeah.
Fitch.
Not you
Yeah.
rocking wet seal, but not you rocking the wet seal version.
Oh, not wet seal. Oh my goodness. You know what?
You know what?
Sorry.
Wet seal walks so she can run. Okay.
Sure did. Sure did. Okay. Charlotte Rouge still out here. Is Charlotte Rouge still out here doing this thing? Because that was my store.
I won't even lie. I can't walk through the mall now without Charlotte Russe stopping me for a second with their little shoes that they have on the outside. That'd be cute. You can't walk in them. The
No,
heel gonna break.
they're made out of
You gonna
cardboard.
slide.
But
If you
listen,
do not focus on lifting your foot up and putting it down when you walk, you're gonna be sliding all over the place in those heels. But they be cute. And they always are in hot pink and fuchsia.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they
Yep.
still distract me anytime I'm in the mall,
You're like,
and
"Ooh,
I know better.
oh my gosh. But it's funny that you mentioned because it makes me think, who is that rapper? What is that girl name? Tay something. Tay something. She's white
Ooh.
and she's a rapper. And every now and then she comes out with a little bop. And she was like, "Oh, those are the girls I'm talking about. The girls that be out there with their wet seal dress on." And I was like, what an odd thing for her to mention. So it's so funny that she
They had their things.
Oh
They had their things.
gosh.
I remember when I was in, like I was in elementary, I was, like, 6th grade or something, and my mom threw me a birthday party. It was the only birthday party I have ever had because I got yelled at the whole day that after that, I was like, "I don't want no more parties. This is
Okay.
just very stressful.
All
I don't know
right.
why I'm being held responsible for what a group of 12-year-olds are doing. I too am 12. I'm not in
Mm,
control of them."
mm,
But yeah. But I had this birthday party, it was a swimming pool party, and this girl, who happened to be a white girl, had brought me a gift, and it was Alyssa was her name. What is Alyssa's last name? I can't remember. And she had bought me a gift, and it was like a Air Apostle
mhm,
shirt set.
mhm.
And like apparently the white people at my school was like Team Aeropostale or Team Abercrombie and Fitch, and they're like, Aeropostale, aren't things like 30% off there right now? And like it was all
You know what?
and it's like at the time I was a black kid. I was shopping at like City Trends and stuff. So I didn't know what they was
Mhm,
arguing about. I was like, it's cute. It looks like a polo. It's fine. Thank you, girl. But they was like having their own little
mhm,
battle thing happening where they were like, I
mm.
thought she got you the 30% off Aeropostale. And I was like, I don't know what you guys are. They're
Girl,
they're all brands I don't watch. So
I had I know the high school I went to in Oklahoma, they banned FUBU
wow.
because they said that it was gang affiliated, and we were in an uproar,
Not
like,
for
all
us,
this
by us.
girl, yes. While y'all got these people in gangs of Abercrombie& and Fitch, you're gonna tell us that we can't have our little FUBU. It's only 10 of us in this damn school. It ain't enough to form a gang. Like, what is your problem? They literally banned the brand.
That's so funny.
A
Yeah.
damn shame.
Mm.
But you know what? You saying it don't make me think. I'm like, I feel like I must have been saved in high school because my senior year, like I said, when I moved there, I worked in retail.
Mhm.
So I bought my clothes from there. And usually I had to go to work right after school. So I was pretty much business casual a lot of times at school because I gotta go to work when I
Mhm.
get out of here. That was my life. And I worked at Goodies and they had little cute stuff there.
I went through my phases. I went through the like on Tuesdays we wear heels phase. And like and then I also went through my like, girl, we rocking PJs and hoodies. Like y'all lucky I don't wrap my hair. Okay. Like y'all lucky my hair ain't still wrapped around my head as I'm walking through with my comb, making sure it don't fall. Like I
Mm.
went through my ebbs and flows. I went through my ebbs and flows.
The having the comb in the back of your head face. See, but these are experience.
These are experiences.
My
Well,
gosh.
but so while we're talking about that,
Mhm.
because like you said, you have some people like you missed it, whether it was because your parents were like, we're gonna move to the north side and there's no black kids on the north side, and you just left out. But also, like, I always like really admired that the black kids who were like free spirited and like were just doing their own thing, knowing that like yeah, the rest of the black kids are gonna call me weird for this. Like, and
Mhm.
now it has grown where it's no like I think about Afro punk and I
Mhm.
love it. I love seeing the pictures from it. I love the whole environment of it. And I just love like how we now accept that that's a like we now accept like
Yeah.
kind of the note says black people aren't a monolith. Like there's different versions, there's different ways of being black and they're all okay and they're all beautiful. Because when I was growing up, it wasn't.
Mhm.
You had like 3 versions of black you could be, okay?
Oh, for
You
real.
and, like and that was it, and nothing else was acceptable, and now
Mhm.
I love it because, like, I you can have like, it's gonna be I mean, it
Mhm.
was always gonna be fine, but, like, now we embrace, like, black
Yeah.
boy joy. Like,
Yeah.
now a little black boy or a teen or a king whatever kid like go get their nails painted and be like, no, I like women. And like, and we're like, yeah. And you like, and you want your nails painted, that's fine. You can like go and take a picture with like a sunflower in your hair, and no one is like, oh, he's gay. Like we now are
Mhm.
at a place where I
Like,
feel like
black
it's
boy
more
joy, look
understanding.
at that.
Yeah. And I love that. I really, really, really love that. I'm even thinking of like, I feel like every school had like the black kids, whether it was a boy or girl, boys or girls that were like really into Asian culture.
Mhm.
And like in my generation, people are like, oh, those are the weirdos. Like that's just
Mm.
kind of what it was. And I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about it in other episodes of
Mhm.
like how it's a thing for black men in their 30s to like one day secretly reveal to you, like, I like Naruto. And you're like, okay, all of y'all do. I don't know why y'all keep acting like this is a secret.
Mhm. It's
I've had
Naruto.
several black men sit me down on the couch, or I've walked in and they act like they was watching porn or something. And it's
Mhm.
just like, I
It
just
was
don't
anime.
look. I was bored. I didn't know you was gonna be home. I'm like, watch Naruto in peace. I don't. Why are we doing this?
Girl, it's Naruto.
Naruto. I don't care. Whoever,
They
whoever.
care, and
They
God
do care.
forbid that they hear.
They do care. You're right. You're right. I I got it. What did that astrologer I did that interview with? She told me start being nicer to men this year. Just,
Okay,
you could
that's a
just
good
be
shot.
nice to men.
That's a
That'd be
good shot.
great. So let me learn the
But
phrase.
But no, you're right. I love and having been someone who went through different phases of things, and it is one thing that's funny about like again social media connecting folks is people now admitting everyone's like, oh my god, we all loved Paramore. Oh my god, we
Mhm.
all liked this song or these things. Ha ha ha. And now everybody's fine with it. But there was a time you could be like, because I loved alternative. Who don't love
Yeah.
Nirvana? I mean, there's so many things that happened
I,
during our youth that was just good music going on. And people would be like, listen to that white people music. And I'm like, what does that mean?
that was
What
a
does that
whole
mean?
thing. That was a whole thing. Cause I came back from Mexico like like loving things outside of rap. It definitely had to keep it on a low for a minute. Like
Mhm.
definitely, and then I'm like, okay, okay.
You just couldn't just like what you like in public. Yeah. My issue with being biracial, people would be like, well, that's that white side. Can it just be the side that likes good music? What is wrong with y'all? I can't never do nothing. And you know what I recently my boyfriend and I watched The Blackening. We watched it on
Uh-huh.
Halloween. First of all, it's so good. It's funny and it's suspenseful. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Just saying. But there's a biracial character on there, and I was like, yes, this is the representation we need. Because they had some point where they were trying to decide who was blackest, and they
Mhm.
tried to pick her because it
Mhm.
was for somebody to die.
Mhm.
And they tried to pick her. She was like, I see how y'all want to use my blackness when it's convenient to you. And I was like, ah! This character's amazing. Who wrote her? But anyway.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that it's being celebrated, that there's different ways to be black.
It is great that a lot more things are being adapted. Like you said, there's a million ways to be black. They're not a monolith. I know one of my friends that went to a HBCU. He always says like he probably saw the most variety of people at the HBCU.
Mhm.
That was when he
Yeah.
saw the like, oh wow, there's all kind. You got your country black folks, you got your city black folks, you got
Mhm.
people from even different parts of the country. And while we talk about certain experiences that are similar or things that do influence the culture, there's like you said, there's all sorts of variety just based off of where you're from, how you grew up. Um, I know I was talking with someone, even like thinking about past experiences before our time. I was talking with someone recently about like just the experience of our like parents and grandparents.
Mhm.
And so one of my friends was saying he was asking his mom, like, what was it like for you, during like segregated times or like living in the South? And she was like, I grew up around black people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like she really didn't
I didn't
like
mix with them. I don't it did not
li-
affect me that much.
yeah, she really
Yeah.
was like, stayed over here, stayed in my community. I was good. So I was an adult and had to like work yeah, okay. But otherwise, I don't know. And that's her story to pass on.
Yeah.
And then you have like my grandpa was someone who traveled from the South to the North, and he I remember asking him, like, what's a significant historical event in your lifetime? And he was like, desegregation. And I was like, because that seemed like
Oh, that
stuff
was
that's like,
further away.
right, like super, super old. And he
Mhm.
was like, no, honey, like that happened during my lifetime. And he said that he felt still more comfortable in the South because people in the South, if they didn't fool with you, they just didn't fool with you.
Yeah.
You know, it just you could just stay over there. He said, I felt like people in the North, they would throw the rock and hide their hand.
Mhm.
And were liable to mess with you in some other type of way, like a way that
Oh,
would jack up your livelihood.
covert versus overt.
Hmm.
Mhm.
People who is like, yeah, if you don't like me, just leave me alone. That's what anybody's ever asking for, right? Just
Mhm.
like let me be, versus somebody who you have to be next to,
Yeah.
who don't like you, who choose to take it out on you in other ways.
But I love that you brought up, like, also, it also depends on your people, your kin folks, their experience, and how that really forms a lot of your experience, because that's true. Like, my dad is very pro-black, right? And but he's also very, I mean, he's not also, he's very pro-black because he's pro-black, he's a black man, he lesbian black man, that too. But also he is a light-skinned, blue-eyed, curly-haired black man
Mm-hmm.
who grew up during a certain time. And I feel like he just had to go extra hard for his blackness. That's how my granddad explained it anyway. My granddad used to love, he's in his 90s now, so now he don't do it. But he used to love like talking to me about when my dad had an afro and a dashiki. And he was just like, he changed his name to some African name. Cause you okay. And y'all, my granddaddy, he's a man of a certain time. So let's not. But he's like, he's like, I refuse to call him that. I said, Franklin. He's like, and it was just the most pitiful fro. It was just the most
Oh
pitiful fro. His
gosh.
little curly hair just fell down. He just kept trying to fluff it up.
Hmm.
But having like a very pro-black dad and having a dad that was like that really did shape my experience in a certain way, because it wasn't that I was necessarily experiencing a lot of racism, but I was prepared. I was always on the lookout. I was ready. I was looking for the racism. I just knew it was around the corner. It's gonna happen at any minute. And I
And
was
you were
prepared.
prepared.
I was prepared. Y'all, I went through a Dr. Umar phase. I went to see him before I signed up when he was gonna build his school.
Mm,
I thought I was gonna be the school social worker. Like, so I
mhm.
went through because of my daddy. But no, going through that, because your parents' experiences does shape you and so forth. And so like, and of course I experienced racism and so forth. But I'm talking about like as a kid, there were certain experiences I did not have firsthand, but I was
Mhm,
bombarded with so many stories that I was just always on
mhm,
the lookout. I'm
mhm.
like, okay, this is, yeah, I like Susie, but she white, can't trust her. We gonna play on the playground together? I don't know. Race riot starts. Susie might gotta go. Like, I was just
The
ready.
way that these conversations, Lord, that is definitely a topic I would rather explore outside of this episode. But like, but I'm just thinking about, even again, growing up biracial, I remember the times where my mom would just randomly be like, so if there was a race war, what side would you choose?
Parents
Like,
of a
why
certain period.
was I forced to answer this question? And my mom used to be like, do you think you would lie and say you were Mexican? Why would I do that, mom? No, I would be with you. That was my mother. That was my childhood.
What is that story? What is that story? It's a movie that everybody knows about the biracial woman passing as white.
Oh my gosh. And it must have traumatized the
Imitation of
generation.
Life. It must have.
Yeah.
Your
And see, I've
mama.
never seen this movie, but it traumatized the generation. And now everybody thinks all biracial people are gonna just flip flop and hate their parents. I don't know what this thing is. Like maybe that's, I was talking to my
Not
mom about
your
it.
mama
Like,
having
damn,
trauma.
Pookie.
Having to talk to you.
Ask
Hey,
her, because
I
she
just
showed,
so we know. We clear.
I'm telling you, she
I'm
showed
gonna let
you
them
that.
know you got a black mama, just so you know, Ashley.
And I was like, and it just blew my mind, like, because also I did not grow up with my dad's family. I've
Yeah.
never viewed myself as white. I'm pretty sure, regardless of what anybody thinks I am, they know I'm not white. So I don't really know. That's what always blow me when she ask me these strange questions. I'll be like, what? And we actually still have these moments every now and then where I have to be like, "How do you see me?" Because I think that she thinks that I I I I don't know. Mhm, mhm. Yep. So,
But
yeah.
on the other side of that, on the other side of that, like, so whenever I say dad, I'm usually talking about my stepdad. That's who I see as dad. That's who pretty much raised me. And that's who, like, I went to all my father daughter dance things, stuff like that with. But on the other hand, there's this biological man who is also my father. And he is from another country. So I'm first generation. And there's a very special dynamic, I think, that typically happens when you are a first gen
Mhm,
person in
mm,
America. I know as a first gen Black person, it's always interesting because my dad had certain, still does, have certain um, perceptions and ideas when it comes to African Americans.
mhm,
Married
mhm,
one, created one, and he still has very much his mindset. And every now and then, kind of like your mom, just would just say weird things to me. And then also, like, having to have those weird things said to you as a child, as an adult, I now realize, like, that is a crazy person. That's his own stuff. That man needed therapy decades ago, and he made it all of y'all's problem. But as an 8-year old, I didn't know that. And it was very interesting, like, operate through the world and just be like, oh, okay. And then randomly being like, hey, this person have these, like, ill-conceived thoughts about your community and just
mhm,
randomly tell you and then send you off to the community. Now you up here like, I don't know what to do with this information.
mhm, mhm. No, I can imagine that would yeah.
And that's the thing when I talk to a lot of other first gen people that a lot of us experience.
Yeah.
A lot of us have parents that are like, okay, now you go out there and blah, blah, blah. But remember, you are a proud blah, 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 blah. You're not like them. And you're like, oh, God.
That's what oh, goodness.
Or
Yeah.
whatever thing they threw about you.
Yeah, no, my one of my I don't wanna share about I remember working with a client
Mhm,
who was going to court, right?
mhm,
And appeared, if you just viewed this person, he appeared to be a Black male.
mhm.
However, he was from another country. And he literally tried to use that on multiple occasions, like, would come to court without things done like they were supposed to be done,
Mhm.
right? Like, everybody had the same things they needed to do. Everybody had the same checklist. You came without the things that you were supposed to have done this time. But instead of owning up to that, you choose to write the letter or judge by how different you are because you worked so
I
hard
think I remember this case.
and do all these things. And I was like, and then he did it again. I was like, you can't keep coming here without all your stuff together. This lady might throw you in jail. And he was like, I don't want her to think I'm like these other people. And I was like, excuse me, what other people are you referring to?
Dang. It's a thing.
And he really tried it. And I had to let him know, honey, what you have in common with them is y'all got felonies. Stop. Stop it.
As an adult, me and my dad got into it one time because I can't remember what it was, but it was a concept like that of just like, well, because African Americans, hey, da 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 da. And I was like, first of all, I'm African American. And I was like, I can also be Guyanese and African American, but like I'm African American. Also, and we got to get into that because that's a whole other conversation of like
Mhm.
what it feels like to be a Black person, but also have another identity that
Mhm.
you did not grow up in. And then also that feeling of like, I know I'm this, but I don't feel right speaking in these spaces. Because I
Mhm.
don't really like, because I didn't grow up with my dad. I would visit him sometimes. I lived with him for like 2 years of my life. But like, for example, whenever people ask me about like being West Indian, I'm like, okay, I feel the need to explain myself. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm Guyanese, but like I can't clap Rhodey. I need y'all to
Mhm.
understand that. Okay. Like I need you like I have to do these explanations.
Mhm.
Like, hey, hey, I too am confused when we go into the Jamaican shop. I don't know what they're saying. I don't I should. Anywho, But so going back to the original reason I brought this up, my dad, one time we were having this like conversation, and he did have this whole like, well, because African Americans, they blah, 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 blah. And like we got into it. And I pointed out to him, I was like, I am your African American daughter. I grew up in America. I grew up with your African American ex-wife. We had to have this whole like breakdown because he like kept saying these things, and I'm just like, let's make it make sense.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
have these two things together. So yeah, it's we got these different pockets.
No, that's valid. That's a thing. And you had to call it out. That's a question of like how many generations until you are African American.
I don't want to go into this, Ashley.
No, no. You're right. You're right. Well, but like you said, your mom, you're right. It's a whole other thing. But there's also like, I mean, it's that also brings into question like the whole other dynamic of like people not considering like Black to be its own culture when it
Mhm.
actually is. It's like, no, it's not enough to just be this shade and in this country. Like there is a whole experience as to why this group of people is very
Mhm.
specific, right? This group of people doesn't necessarily have ties or connection to other places outside of this country.
Yeah.
They can't trace their roots no further than the port on Charleston here in Charleston.
Look.
So that's it, and that's that. And so that group of people and these generations and the experiences that they have had that have shaped us all and brought us to where we are today and the culture that's formed for that. That's what we mean when we say African American and Black people.
Yeah, well, but I think it goes back to people not really understanding what culture is.
Mhm.
I think people get it mixed up with so many things, and I think you broke it down beautifully. Like culture, it is the social behavior, the institutions, the norms for this particular set of people. This can be our values, this can be shared experiences, this can be language, this can be the way that we communicate, this can be roles, this can be customs, those type of things. And I think people don't look at it as that. Because when you say culture and you look at it in that way, then yes, then clearly there is a Black culture.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a reason like why all of us are like, we all know the electric slide. I don't care who you are. Y'all know the electric slide. I don't even know when I learned how to do the electric slide. I haven't done the electric slide probably in like a decade, but if you put on the sound right now, I'm gonna just automatically do it.
Your body will move to it.
My
Yes.
body will just know what to do.
Mhm.
There's certain shared experiences, and I really hate that sometimes I think because of the things that you said, like, well, y'all don't know where y'all came from. Y'all don't have this history, but we do have a history.
Mm.
And we have a history that goes back so much further than starting here in America. But unfortunately, that was taken from us. That was robbed from us. And so let us value, let us praise and adorn the history that we do have because it's an amazing one. We got a lot accomplished in a very little time. Like you said, being able to sit back and ask your grandpa or somebody's grandpa, like, what was a big significant thing? And they say segregation.
Mhm.
Like, sir, you still here talking to me? What you mean? That was that close. We have accomplished a lot and we have a lot to be proud of. And I love the way that we are developing as a people.
Well said, Russ.
Yeah. Not all of us. Not all of us. Some of y'all gotta go. Some of y'all gotta go.
Um,
I just I wanna vote some of the people off the island.
We can all make it to the land.
All right. All right. You can go with them. Y'all, you and all the
Whatever.
kumbaya folks.
Grabbing the bonds.
Ooh, no, 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 no. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
My mom is thinking about doing a 23andMe, and I was like, "So you're gonna give our DNA?" My mom thinks she's related to, so she thinks she's found another sibling, I think, or something like that. So she wants to do it, and I'm just like, I just don't want our. I'm like, Mom, you have half of my DNA. I don't want you giving it to these people. We don't know what else they're gonna do with it.
We do not. Actually, it's funny you bring that up though, because I am scared of giving it away. And I know because I work for the government and you got to give your fingerprints over and all that type of stuff. But
Mhm.
like, I am really scared of a Henrietta Lacks type of thing. Like, I'm scared y'all gonna find something special and magical in
Like,
my
oh, get
body.
my
And
hand.
next thing I know, they're gonna be like, you gotta come to the hospital. You got COVID. We gotta operate. And that's the last time y'all gonna see me. Like,
That's
I'm very terrified that they gonna find something
it. You're in a test
magical.
lab. I mean, I think it's a legitimate theory. That's all I'm gonna say.
We're laughing, but I'm very serious.
Nah, I don't know why I'm concerned. I just know that I don't trust them. And especially, and it didn't help. They came out with some new service or something. I read about it where it was like it's like a diet
Mhm.
service. And they're like,
Yeah,
if you
like based on your
already,
DNA, I could tell you
yeah,
what you need to eat and why you have
yeah.
scoliosis and yeah.
Which sounds great, but the fact they're like, oh, but if you've already done 23 and Me, don't even worry
Mhm.
about it. We already got your stuff. How did you get it? Why do you? Who else been
Well, but you
sharing my
know, they had
info?
that leak where they are, I think they're being sued because people's info was getting leaked to the black market.
Look at
So
that. Now
now
they
what
coming to
happened when
get your kidney.
you got
Oh
the
no.
perfect
I need to
kidney.
text my mama right now.
You got the perfect kidney for somebody who rich and need that kidney. Now you got to hide from Selena Gomez. I like it. I don't like it.
I see where we go with this.
I don't care. I'm keeping that in there.
I'm literally about to text my mom. So what if you give your DNA to 23andMe and then you match with a kidney they need on the black market?
And now you gotta hide from
My
Selena
mom is gonna be like,
Gomez.
"Why are you?" I'm not gonna say it. My mama have nightmares about people taking her kidney. I am always listen. If you ever want to get me to not do something, tie it to how somebody could take my kidneys, and I'm not gonna do it.
The kidney specifically.
Very specifically, it is a legitimate fear of mine to wake up in a tub without my kidney or
Yeah,
any of my organs. Breaking my teeth is also something I don't want to do.
yeah.
I live in fear of falling and breaking out my teeth. You be like,
Mm,
"Hey, do this," because I might break out my teeth. No.
mm.
And then yeah, having my organs taken from my body. These are things that concern
I I gotta be honest with you. This is the first time I've thought about my teeth being broken.
me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for
Sorry,
that.
I live in fear.
Uh, no, no, no. Well, you know, when I was younger, I was always just like, yeah, you can have my kidney. I remember when me and a person who my who I always refer to as my Harley Quinn or as my poison ivy.
Mhm.
And we had made a pact too of like, because she's older than me and wanted to have kids. And she was like, you know, if I can, and I was like, oh, I'll give you eggs. Let me, Erica, it's fine. Hmm. I got parts. If I'm not using them, I guess other people could.
Hmm. Well, I don't mind donate. Like I'm a organ donor, and there are people who are anti that because they
I'm
feel like
not
they're
a
going to
organ
die.
owner. But so this is where this is what I talk about. But I'm like, me and you be so much the same. And then we get right to like touching noses and make complete different turns. Because I'm not an organ donor because I'm scared if I get into an accident, they're not going to try hard because they're like, you know what? Patient in room 5B really needs a kidney. And like, we could try, but
I don't think that would happen.
that's how I think. You think of people just randomly taking your kidney off 23andMe, but me thinking about an organ donor is crazy.
Oh yeah, because the people on the black market don't have a code of ethics and Hippocratic oath and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that doctors always do what
I'm
they're
about to
supposed to
say,
do,
me and you both
but
have worked with lawyers, doctors,
I,
judges, and politicians who have taken
I
all types of
understand.
oaths, and we know how that actually works. Let's not.
I
Let's
understand.
not.
But
They
license
are the
these
same people on the black market. Let's be very clear.
people.
Let's be very clear. If you
I
sit
just
here and
like to
think long
leave,
enough, we can
and they
both
were
think
trying
of
to save my
somebody
life.
that we're like, they was probably selling some stuff on the black
And
market.
even in your scenario, I would still have to get into an accident, all this stuff. They would have to find out you're in. There's all sorts of steps before that happens. Versus, I'm into the 23andMe system. I have tracked down the old positive person with the whoop de whoop, and I'm coming to get their kidney. See,
They still, but
one
they gotta
is
find you. They gotta
happenstance.
find you alone. They gotta kidnap you. They gotta the hospital. You're there and sedated. Like you all, and you it can be sued. Cause look, she already said yeah. I'm just saying. All we're saying is there's reasons to be afraid. If you want to take anything away from this episode, it's fear.
Be mindful of where your info and your DNA end up. That's all. Okay.
I really got to stop. I had this thought the other day too. I was having a conversation with somebody and I was like, Rush, you really got to chill because people don't know your sense of humor. Like, people really think this is you real time, all the time. And you got to chill. You got to
Mhm,
chill. And I got to chill.
mhm.
Yeah. No, please don't take away fear from this.
No, please don't. That's we all the way off topic anyway.
Our energies are just matching, so we going higher and higher. Don't don't let this distract you. So back to being black in black spaces, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
For all the things that can be challenging about it, it can also be very comforting. Comforting, kind of like I mentioned earlier. I know for me, I feel like even though I didn't, when I moved to Atlanta, I didn't necessarily want to. Like I had to for school reasons and a lot of other
Mm,
things. But it was a really good experience in that way of like I said, of being like, wow, I don't feel like I'm at home here. This is what this is like. And now to be in other cities and like work, especially because the bulk of my career started there.
mhm.
And so now to be in other spaces where it's like, yeah, I'm used to seeing black people be in charge. I'm
Yeah.
used to, that like that's it, owning things, running things, doing things like that. So it doesn't that's what I expect. I know we're capable of it. I know I can do it. And even when I'm in situations where people will try to make it seem like I remember one of my first jobs here where someone was like, "Oh yeah, we gotta have some barbershop talk," and I was like, "What you mean?" And he meant like, "Let's go be the black people like huddled in the corner talking." And I was like, "I ain't never had to huddle in no in the corner talk," but that's because
Mhm.
that's not because the environments I come from, I've worked in. That wasn't the thing. So it's
Yeah.
like that's a whole other experience to get used to. But still, like I'm thankful to have had the bulk of my career be that experience to where I
Yeah.
saw that. Um, so yeah, it can also be very comforting.
It can be. It can be. Yeah, those tapping the top part of your hand conversations
Mhm, mhm.
or being like the palm side. Palm. I love older black people that do that. And they be like, cause they turn over their hand, just point at their
You're
palm.
supposed to just pick up on oh the
Yeah. I told you my daughter refers to anybody that is lighter than her as peach people, and it cracks me up. The peach people.
kids are so funny. At least I don't know because even I mean my sister's on it, but does not like black, like saying black and saying white. Like
Mhm.
she would rather refer to people as like browns and all these other things, which is fine. But then it makes her if you say like, yeah, when white people do this, like she's so uncomfortable. Like, why do you have to call them white? Well, because that's what I'm talking about. They're white. What do you want me to call them?
But also, she's around a lot of white folks who probably also
Yeah.
react like that to be called white. 'Cause, that's a whole thing too.
That's a whole oh my god. Don't even do not because you saw my
I
eye
know.
hurt from the roll they did
I
just did.
know.
I can't
I
even go
know.
there.
Well, but it's like I know because my dad lived in multiple different countries and so forth. And sometimes when I would go visit him, especially when I was older, but yeah, going to different cultures and you are called by your actual skin tone. So it's like, yeah, I'm mocha. And I'm like, girl, I'm brown. You're not brown. But even me and you. When me and you first started being friends, you used to always like correct me when I would not refer to myself as light skin, and you like you're yellow. I'm like I'm not. I'm caramel. You're like you're definitely not. Or I would have an emoji that was brown, and you're like, who's brown emoji? And I'm like, I'm black. I don't know. Why can't I use the dark skin emoji?
Cause you really be I don't rest. Okay.
Okay, I
But
still
you still do it and I just don't say nothing.
I
I'm
appreciate
like,
that you don't.
I
I still don't understand why it's a thing.
it's not a thing. You just be talking like you mocha chocolate like and I just don't.
First of
I'm
all, I
like,
am a Nubian brown skin queen. Okay. I
okay.
don't. I don't. But it's
But then
funny
you
you
want to
say that.
paint me stark white and can't understand my problem with it.
Who was that
Okay.
that used to always call you white girl? That rapper.
He didn't always, but Pastor Troy commented on one of my pictures talking about, "Go ahead, white girl." And I was like, I deleted from my page. How dare you come here and disrespect me like this?
Oh
Motherfucker.
my gosh. Anyway, anyway. Yeah, interesting. But it's funny you bring that up because my daughter does that now. Like my daughter will get on her little games and apps that allow her like Roblox.
Mhm.
And like anytime I see her Roblox character, I'm like, who is that? And she's like, that's me. And she always like paints herself as like a beautiful Kelly Rowland. And I'm like, and that's great. That looks nothing like you. But you cannot tell my daughter she is not a beautiful brown skinned woman.
Well, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know.
Oh my gosh. Apparently there's a whole thing. I remember this guy told me once and I was like, "What?" About just like being a medium person.
It's hard out here in the middle. It is so hard out here in the middle.
Oh my, and this is what we mean. Everybody is having their own unique experiences across the spectrum. Because that is just hilarious. I just, yeah. And he mentioned that, and I was like, what? And he was like, it's a whole thing. Like, you not light skin, you not dark skin, you got to deal with it. I was
Because if
just
you
like,
say you light skinned to the wrong people, they be like, Tracy Ellis Ross is light skinned.
oh my Lord.
Like they'll go through the whole list of the Lil Flip is light skin. I don't know why you're ashamed of your brown skin tone. And you're like, okay, I'm brown skin. All right, okay, my bad. My bad.
Okay, so understanding that, because there are, and again, like we talk about these certain things, like there are these things that you just start to learn. Like, okay, if I say this, it's an attack. If I say this, I have found my place right here where no shot should be fired,
No shot should be,
or at
yeah.
least I mitigate the shots fired. I mean, like, isn't that doesn't that just feel?
It's a lot of stuff that feels a lot of things. It's a lot of stuff that feels a lot of things. So yeah, the Black experience.
Mhm. And that is one of those things of comfort when there are certain things where it's like what's understood doesn't need to be said. It is a
Mm,
good comfort feeling. It's
mm,
nice to be in certain spaces where you can say a certain thing and you are understood
hmm
without having to give background and be someone's, history teacher so they can see you.
Yeah. So that comfort part, I think, you know, I'm sure like with all races, there is some comfort of being with your own people, of course, in intermingling and going out, but there's also, those pressures as well. There's pressures of how am I supposed to show up in those spaces, and at the same time wanting sometimes just to be in those spaces because there is that comfort, there's that familiarity, there is that I don't have to explain myself and how I am and why I show up this way. And something that's complicated and beautiful all at the same time. Well, guys, that is all we have for today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed. We hope y'all did not revoke our black cards. We've been proud members for 30 something odd years, and we would like to stay with the organization. Please do not trade us in the race trade off. Uh, uh, but wherever you're listening, we do ask that you leave a review with some words. Follow us on Instagram at She Wolf Alchemy, and you will hear the sound of our voice with our last episode of the season next Sunday. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.